Welcome to American Pulse. Our special episode this week is about the Egyptian art in the past, present, and the future. I have a very special and unique guest today, and I'm going to introduce him today in a very different way. I'm going to give you a puzzle. All right? He was born in Egypt. He graduated from UCLA with a Master's of Fine Arts. He academically continued to teach in the Academy of Arts and the Film Institutes for about more than 12 years. A lot of people love him in Egypt. We all love him in Egypt. We love him in America. He causes a lot of problems for men because a lot of women like him. He has an actor, a brother. His name is Mustafa Fahmy. So we all know, today we have Mr. Hussein Fahmy. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It's very nice being with you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Fahmy, you came to America this time to support Egypt. I would like to start with how did it come about and how long were you here and what you've been doing here?
Well, to start, I have to thank you very much for inviting me to your program.
You're very welcome. Thank you for coming to my program.
I know that you're doing a very good job, and I
Thanks.
compliment you for it. And
Thank you very much.
I wish you all the best in the future.
Thank you.
You're all doing a great job, all your team and everyone around you,
Thank you.
to support Egypt's cause in the United States.
This is a big compliment, and I'm very happy to receive it.
It's a fact, and I compliment you for it, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you, Mr.
I came to the States as a student at UCLA, and I graduated. I worked after graduation in one of the studios. I was making TV commercials and short films, documentaries, and I lived like about between 6 and 7 years there. My son was born there at St. John's Hospital in Santa Monica.
Okay.
And at that time, I decided to come back and break through the feature films, because I was not able to make it through in Hollywood. I was able only to make it through in short films and documentaries, which was not my dream. My dream was to be a film director for feature films. So I came back to Egypt with the support of Yusuf Shaheen, our great film director.
Yes, absolutely.
Who has made contacts with the Minister of Culture at the time, Dr. Abdeladir Hatem. And I was promised to direct my first movie when I come back. So I came back, I went on teaching, as you have mentioned, at the Academy of Arts for 12 years as a full professor for film directing. Meanwhile, I was approached to produce my first movie as a film director.
Sure.
I was not able to make it very easily because there was very tough competition.
A lot of challenges.
A lot of challenges with the elderly film directors, you know, those who are really basic.
Tycoons of the movies.
Yes, of Barakat, Hassan al-Imam, you know, big names in this industry. Salah Hussein was still there.
Yes.
And I was approached to become a film actor. So by the advice of Yusuf Shaheen, I went along. He said, go ahead, try it. Let's see how it works. He was an actor himself, you know, Yusuf Shaheen was an actor himself. So his advice encouraged me, and I moved in, and overnight I became a movie star. I have to admit I did not start the ladder. I was at the top from my first movie, and this made it more difficult for me to remain at the top. Because
so you had to maintain.
To maintain this success and to remain at the top is even more difficult than climbing up the ladder. It was very tough, you know. I've been there for 40 years now, and I'm very happy. I'm glad that I still have a great audience, and I have not disappointed them with what I've been making, whether it be stage, whether it be movies, whether it be a television series. I've always been able to introduce the better and the best. And this has cost me a lot. It has cost me a lot because I have turned down a lot of projects and that were not coinciding with my beliefs, were not coinciding with what I have always wanted and dreamt of producing and making. Meanwhile, parallel to that, and parallel to me receiving Best Actor Award, whether it be motion pictures, theater, I've received Best Actor Award for the stage for Ahlan Ya Bakawat, the play that was very famous.
Yes.
It stayed on stage for 2 years, and as well as television series. Parallel to that, I was very active politically. I've always been a political activist. A political activist in the sense that I believe in. A political activist is a person who believes in his ideas and who fights for it and who exposes it the right way through the right channels, but not carrying a Molotov bomb and claiming that this is being a political activist. A political activist is a person. I was a political activist during the Vietnam War in the States. I stood for the Vietnamese. I was against the war in Vietnam. I didn't feel that the Americans had any right to be there. And this is what I believed in. But this was on the right stages, in the universities, whether it be congressmen coming to the university or whatever. And I was there to debate them. And then we went through the defeat of the 5th of June, 1967. And again, I was a political activist fighting for our cause, for the Egyptian cause and for the Arab cause. And by this, I believe in what is called an activist. An activist, I came to the States as an activist lately during the Brotherhood rule, and I met congressmen. I came 3 times, and I met congressmen, and I had set appointments with them. And one time there was about 300 congressmen in Washington, D.C., and I explained to them who they were. I explained to them what the Brotherhood is doing in Egypt. I explained to them that they were supported by the American administration at the time, and that this is a terrorist group and this is a terrorist organization. This was during their rule. Yeah. And I felt that this is my duty as an Egyptian.
I was about to ask you why. We have a lot of people that really, I wouldn't say they don't care, maybe they care, but they don't express themselves the way that you took the initiatives and you traveled here and you met with the people to give them the right picture. What was the motive?
The motive is that I have to fight for my country at the time where I felt that my country was going down. We were going down the drain. And at that moment, even my children felt they were scared for my life. I was threatened.
Yes.
I was threatened, and I was called by the security, and they asked me to carry my own gun. And I was carrying my own gun all around because my life was threatened. But then I decided that
that gives you
my
even
country,
more a push, right?
Exactly, and then my country comes first. Who am I to be compared to Farag Foda, who gave his life for his beliefs?
Yes.
Naguib Mahfouz, who was attacked and on the verge of being murdered because of his beliefs and his writings and his ideas. And so to me, this was a mission that I had to do, and I did it, all willingly, and I was not scared of anyone, afraid of anyone. And this is a statement that I would like to make, that we should never be afraid. We should always defend our country, defend our beliefs, fight for what we believe in without fear of anyone. Because they want to fear you, they want you to be afraid, and you should not be afraid. They should be afraid of us.
Absolutely. Actually, at the point of at the time of the ruling, I was amazed on your actions and other political activists who really sacrificed their time and life, and they put their life on line because nobody believed that these guys are leaving the country before hundreds of years. So you're fighting a big challenge.
They themselves didn't believe that they were leaving. They were there to stay, and they were determined to stay, and they were supported by the American administration. They were supported by the Turks at the time also, and and by the Qataris, and this is something that really is shameful. It is shameful of the American administration to support such a group. It is shameful of the Turks to do it, and it's shameful of an Arab country like Qatar to support them with money and with arms, to overthrow Egypt and to ruin our country. We were not ready for that.
What do you think of the current situation now, political situation in Egypt after June 30th, after the president came to the States and the United Nations and gave the speech about Egypt and the whole 9 years? Where are we standing now in the picture of the world?
Let me start by President Sisi's last visit to the United Nations. I came to the United Nations. I attended the General Assembly. I attended his speech in the General Assembly as an ex-ambassador to the UN. I was able to pull few strings.
Yes, I saw you there. I was upstairs and I
Oh,
saw
you
you
were
coming
upstairs?
in.
Okay,
And I
yeah.
saw you from a distance. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is Hussein Fahmy.
No, I was sitting down there, right, very close, right
Yes.
behind the president, and I attended his speech. I attended also the Qatari's speech.
Yeah, it was right before.
This year, right before, which was very poor, very weak, meaningless,
Shameful.
meaningless, shameful. Yes, it was shameful. But then the president came out very strong for Egypt. He talked about major and important issues. He didn't talk about trivials like the Qatari did or like the Turkish ambassador did, president did, which is really shameful to talk about another nation and to interfere in other nations' interior policy is not at all of a certain value. It's not a standard, but President Sisi was of a great caliber,
Yes.
a great standard,
Charisma. He had the
great charisma. He has been very well received at the beginning before his speech. People were standing. It was a standing ovation, as you have noticed.
Yes.
And
Never happened in the UN, by the way.
Never happened
Never
in the UN.
to any president
Exactly.
in the past.
I have attended 9 general assemblies before with major presidents of major nations. It hasn't happened to Obama himself even before his speech.
Yes.
And then the president had a standing ovation at the end of his speech. King Abdullah was there also, and he had a marvelous speech. We met the president at the United Nations afterwards, after his speech, and we shook hands together. We complimented him for what he did and for his job. Of course, you, as an American Egyptian, standing there in front of the UN and in front of the hotel where the president was staying was marvelous.
He was very proud.
Marvelous reception, really. And he was very proud of it, and he mentioned it, actually.
Yes.
He even wanted to step down the car to
to
shake hands with everyone, but again, the security prevented them from doing it. So I believe that the star of this 69th session was President Sisi. He was really the most important president during this session. We've seen many sessions at the United Nations before, and we're going to see more after this, but this session, I believe, should be mentioned as the session of President Sisi of Egypt.
I felt it was a transformation of the image of Egypt to the whole world. They always thought of us that we're rebellious, we don't like our president, we keep throwing presidents away, but they didn't know that we did it for a reason. And when they saw that all the Egyptians standing by the UN, it was a great message to the whole world. And when the president addressed the terrorism in the whole world, everybody started to realize that this person is trying to do good for the whole world.
Exactly. And then he mentioned about the future of Egypt, about what we have as projects, and what we are aiming for.
He invited all the investors.
He invited
to
all
come
the
in
investors.
February.
Exactly. He talked about the Suez Canal project now, the new project on the Suez Canal, and he mentioned a lot of important matters. He didn't go into trivials. And this is the value of great men. At one time, my daughter sent me a very nice note because at one time I was being attacked. I did the play of Ahlani Bakawat, and the play was talking about the fact that we haven't moved from the 18th century. So I was attacked in the papers. We were attacked by critics, theater critics.
Yes.
So my daughter sent me a very nice note, and I kept it in my room. She said, small people talk about small matters. Great people talk about great matters.
Yes, well said. I have to be honest with you. As much as I knew that Egyptians had the power and the will to come and support the Sisi, I was thinking that there's not going to be a lot of people there. It was a working day. People had to take off from work. People there, we already have a president. We have a government. There's no need to protest in my own mind. But we kept on pushing people to come, and the view was marvelous.
People came
Thousands
with large numbers. Even the security had to prevent a lot of people from entering. And there were buses coming from all over the States, which was great. And then we came from Egypt. There was a large group who came from Egypt to support the president. I was able to attend in the Security Council, and in the General Assembly. So it was really fascinating.
I think he was very happy, and he felt very supported by his people, and he mentioned it so many times.
It's true.
Mr. Fahmy, what have you been doing after that? I heard that you've been traveling, giving
Yeah.
lectures in schools.
Yeah, I've been lecturing. I went to the Boston University for a very important lecture that I set the venue for it, and I set the title for it, and I decided that I'm going to talk about arts and terrorism, because we were terrorized in Egypt for 1 year under the rule of the Brotherhood. We were terrorized not only physically, but even mentally. You were not allowed to think. They were trying to prevent us from performing, from thinking, from having ideas. They got us a failure as a minister of culture, a failure who could not follow his seat, fill his seat even, and that's why we rejected him, and we overtook the Ministry of Culture, and we prevented him from entering his office. But we kept this Ministry of Culture intact. If you have seen the building after we departed, the minister's office was not touched. We locked it, and nobody entered the office of the minister. We were sitting outside all the time. Everything was very clean, very neat, and we left this palace. It's a palace, actually.
Yes, it is.
The Ministry of Culture is a palace. We left it intact as it is. All the statues, all the carpets, everything was intact. Because this is the quality of artists.
They were about to destroy it.
Exactly. Yeah. But we were there, and we as artists, we were there. We were in the opera house. People were singing because they wanted to prevent singing. They wanted to prevent dancing. They wanted to prevent the Egyptians from being happy.
Yes. More question to Mr. Hussein Fahmy right after the break. We're back to American Pulse with our very special guest, Mr. Hussein Fahmy. Welcome back.
Thank you. Nice being back.
Thank you. The art and media in Egypt. Mr. Fahmy, you've been working in the Egyptian media and cinema and movies for, you mentioned, over 40 years.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have seen a lot of evolution over the years. If you don't mind, if you can start with the 60s and 70s, how things were. What are things right now, and what are you hoping for things to be in the future?
I was a professional actor during the 70s. So I started in the 70s. But of course, I was a film lover for many years, and I've seen all the Egyptian movies during my study, and then as an amateur. Yeah, exactly.
Lovely.
The black and white movies. Yes. As an amateur and a lover of motion pictures, and again as a student of motion pictures, and then as a professor. So during this period, I have to admit that in the 60s, we were making movies with a certain ideology. And this ideology did not appeal very much to the rest of the Arab world. And that's why in the 60s, we lost a major market for the Egyptian cinema. We didn't have enough equipments, we didn't have the good equipments, we didn't have the better equipments that we needed. It was not allowed to enter. In the 70s, it started to improve. This is when color came in as a new invention for cinemas, when we had the big screen, cinema scopes and everything.
I call it half color because I couldn't really tell if it was really full color or half color.
Some movies, yes. Because we were not using Kodak, we were using ACFA. Okay. ACFA is an Eastern Bloc type of films, which the colors were not really as profound and as real as Kodak.
Yes.
This is not a promotion for anyone,
but
just,
you can appreciate the evolution.
I was comparing, the industry as an industry. And then we moved into the 80s, and we were able to, in the 80s, we were able to bring in modern equipments, the latest equipments that were coming in. We were able to convince the government to reduce customs, and then to make us pay customs after we start working with the equipments or with the production. And this, and I was involved in there because I met the Prime Minister at that time more than once, and I was able to, with a group of friends, of course, in the industry, we were able to convince them to reduce the customs and the taxes on the machinery and the equipments that we bring in, because again, we don't have the industry.
Yes.
We don't industrialize.
So you started building.
So we started bringing them up and starting building a new cinema with a new generation of filmmakers and film directors and screenplay writers and of course stars that were loved and liked by the audience. We moved from there to the 90s and then the 2000 new century, and films are extremely better than before. I mean, I really envy those who are working today with the new machinery and the new equipments. It's fantastic. I mean, the lighting system is different, the motion picture, the cameras, everything is completely different. Even the theaters, if you go to the theater is different, the sound system.
Technology has made a lot of
Technology
change.
has improved immensely, and we were able to bring it in. So the industry is improving as far as motion pictures is concerned.
Sure.
We can find the same thing on television. On television also we're improving. We have better writers, we have new ideas as film directors who has introduced themselves into television and the small screen, so it has really improved.
It's always said that the cinemas are the reflection of the community, and the movies that you produce in the cinemas and people watch are the reflection of the community and the facts on earth. It was come to my attention that things were, I can't generalize of course, but a lot of movies have started, using bad words and bad images and language. And I think, killing, a lot of blood. And I think I can personally attribute the killing that we hear about every day in the newspaper because, beheading a person now, it's become a very common scene on TV. What's your perspective on that? I might be wrong, I don't know, but that's how I feel.
We have always dealt with two theories. A theory that says cinema is a reflection of life, and another theory that said that life is a reflection of cinema. And we have always been debating.
Which one?
It life
it's the egg or the chicken?
Actually, yes, exactly. Reflecting itself on movies, or is it that movies are reflecting itself on films, on life, or real life? But life has so many aspects. Life has beauty. It has brutality at the same time. It has love and affection. It has hatred. Life is full of many aspects. So for you in the motion picture, when you choose one aspect of life only, which is violence or brutality, and this is the only aspect of life that you see and expose in your films and on the screen, is not fair. It's not fair to life, because if I'm copying from life and I'm copying human beings have many, many aspects in themselves, and they have many feelings. They have love, they have affection, you have even plants have love and affection between themselves. Why don't we expose that also? Why don't we make movies that shows every aspect of life, as long as we said that movies are a reflection of life? And this is what I believe. I've always believed that motion picture is taken from life. I take what is around me and I choose. But to choose only one aspect, which is violence
the action where everybody's interested in watching.
Aggressiveness, exactly, is not fair.
Yes.
It's not fair to life.
Yeah.
Because you still have emotions, you still have, in the 70s, we had a lot of romantic movies and romantic films.
I love them. Yeah.
You are romantic. Every one of us is a romantic. Human beings are romantics. Mm-hmm. So bring it out. Bring it out. Show
the
it.
Positive, the
exactly,
good
the
things
positive and the beautiful thing that is in life.
Mm-hmm.
Don't only take one point of view and one aspect. But the reason behind it is a commercial reason. The commercial reason is because the group that is attending movies is the young generation of today. And that's why they are attracting the desires in the young generation. But you are at the same time directing them. You're not only attracting their desires and satisfying them. On the contrary, you're directing them towards violence.
Yes.
So if they go violent in the street, don't blame anyone but yourself. You have exposed it. And then you pretend to say, this is taken from life. Yes, this is one aspect of life.
I'm sure you have received a lot of proposals to work in action movies and
I worked in
things
action movies. I did write action movies. I did action movies of the bad guy, and I played the good guy. These were proper action movies. But what we are seeing is atrocities.
Yes.
Atrocities is not action movie again. Atrocities, we watch a lot of action movies all over the world, coming from everywhere in the world. But when you go a step further into bloodshed, into murder, into, as you said, obscene language, and then you're taking...
these are movies that I couldn't watch with my wife. My wife is sitting right next to me.
Of course.
I'm thinking, why would I expose her to so much blood and so much brutal
Let alone your
language
children. Let alone your children. So it's not proper. I believe that if I'm copying from life, I have to copy all aspects of life in my movies. I have to make all sorts of movies, not only one side of movies.
Egyptians tend to be jealous in a good way from each other, not in a bad way. And they get infected by a good infection and bad infection. So I'm thinking, why don't we use this, because we have kind heart, why don't we use this in imposing positive ideas, building songs against terrorism, drama against sexual harassments that we've been seeing over the last few years, and it's getting worse and worse. I don't see it getting any better. Why don't we direct our movies instead of... I was watching a series yesterday, and it's all about cheating. Wives are cheating on their husbands, and husbands are cheating on their wives.
No, this is an Egyptian series?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
And it's you know...
Well, they're copying from the West.
Yeah, I think they're copying straight from...
Well, and then there is cheating. I mean, we cannot deny there is cheating, but
this is not the trend.
It's not the trend, and it's not... show the other side of it.
Yes.
I believe that you can show all sides of life.
Yes.
Not only in Egypt, everywhere in the world. Yeah. But to take only one portion and say this is life, one after the other. I mean, this is one work after the other.
Yes.
It's not fair.
And I think that also brings down the fact that when something comes here as a fashion in America, everybody, copies it in Egypt and said it's in America. But you know what? You only copy the bad stuff. You don't copy everything. If you want to copy the American life, you got to take it all as one package. You can't just copy the rap music and this and that and not thinking of people going to work from 9 to 5, working hard, paying their mortgage, paying their money, taking care of their kids.
Do this also.
Yes, yeah, do it.
Work hard, work 8 hours a day,
yes.
And then come and say, I'm copying.
Yes.
But then copying is a mistake. I don't believe in this.
Yeah.
Every society has its own values, has its own beliefs, has its own culture. You cannot just copy another society. It will be ridiculous.
What do you see in the next few years for Egypt as a future, as a country in general?
I see a great future for Egypt. I believe that the whole country now is moving into the right direction. People want to have a better life. They want to have a better society. Egypt is a very strange country, in my opinion.
We have no manual.
The Egyptians... No, of course. Unpredictable. But the Egyptians love their country. They love the soil. They love this land that they've been brought up. If you go to Upper Egypt, I had a program on television that dealt with the Egyptian society, and I was traveling. I traveled all the way, Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt, everywhere. The Delta. I've been to Said, Aswan, Luxor, wherever.
It was broadcasted on Hayat TV.
It was,
right?
it was, and then broadcasted lately on another channel, which is, to me, was a revelation, because I felt that the Egyptians are one unit. I go to their homes and I go into wherever you name it, wherever I go, east, west, north, south. We are one country. We're not like Syria, we're not like Iraq, we're not like Libya. We are Egyptians. We are different. We are different. And this is also one of the geniuses that Muhammad Ali did with Ibrahim Pasha as the leader of the Egyptian army at one time, where it was obligatory to serve in the army. And by this, the Egyptian people has become one bundle, because
They bonded so much.
exactly,
with
because
their
the
country.
farmer coming from Delta meeting a Saidi coming from Upper Egypt,
Saidi,
living
by the way.
together, living together in one camp for a year and a half,
Yes.
and
Exchanging ideas.
exactly, and
Dialogue.
and feelings and emotions, and then they separate. But during the feasts, they visit each other.
Yes.
You would go up to Upper Egypt. The other fellow would come down to the Delta and visit the families and get to know each other. So this is why the Egyptians are a sort of one bundle. You know, it's
Inseparable mix.
It's very, very, very unique people.
And I think that's why we had given the whole world hard time to destroy Egypt. They couldn't.
Yeah.
They couldn't come to see how they can destroy.
They
it.
cannot do it. They cannot do it. It's very difficult for them.
Right now, there is a good momentum in Egypt. I mean, 4 years ago, there's differences between men and women, elder and young, Christians and Muslims. Right now, there's a good bond. What's your advice to keep the momentum and work together as completely only Egyptians and nobody thinking of his background, what he's only for Egypt? We only work for Egypt to make Egypt better.
I believe that what is going to get us there is to accept each other. We have to accept the other. If I differ with you in your opinion, this is your right and this is my right to differ. But we don't differ over our nation. Our country has to be united. We may differ. Our point of views may differ, which is a normal thing. We're not all copy from each other.
Yes.
We cannot be conformatives. And otherwise we will be uniformed. And we are not.
Yes.
So we have to differ. And we have to disagree, because disagreement will reach us to agreements. But the only thing that we have to agree upon is to keep our country intact, is to defend our country, no matter what. And the amazing thing about Egyptians, listen, in the 30th of June till the 3rd of July, where the Brotherhood was moved from power, these 3 days, 33 million Egyptians were in the streets.
Amazing.
All right? There hasn't been one harassment.
Yes.
There hasn't been one robbery anywhere. Banks, homes, you name it.
And there was a lost and found box where people lose their
Exactly.
items, they would go and find it.
They'll go and find it. So this has never happened anywhere in the world.
Yes. Do you agree that the media, instead of focusing on the differences, should focus on the common areas? Because the media has a big share of influential of the ideology of people. People like to watch talk shows, dramas, news. Don't you think we should focus more on the positive sides of being bonded together?
The media is free to focus on whatever they want to focus. They want to focus on positiveness. Thank you. You're welcome. You want to focus on deficiencies and you want to focus on unpositive situations or certain reactions, why? Do it. But it's up to me
to receive.
To receive. As a receiver, it's up to me to decide which side I'm taking. Am I going to take the negative side? You can have a station that is very negative against everything. And we have it.
We have
it. We have many of them.
Yes, and I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, okay. We all know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
And you have the positive. So I would watch this and see, okay, you are negative. I'm not like you. I am more positive. I want my country to be better than this. And I'm working for it. This is what we should do. But allow everyone to talk. Let them talk. Whoever wants to say. Exactly.
My only problem here is that I feel, or me being raised in Egypt, that we always had a culture of El Ahli and Zamalek, the bad and the good.
Yeah.
It's, like two things and I have to pick the best one. And I'm good because I'm Ahlawi and you must be bad because you're Zamakawi, vice versa.
But listen,
So-
you've lived in the States now, and you have Republicans and Democrats, and
Yes.
these are considering these to be the bad guys,
Yes.
and these are the bad guys. It's fine.
It's everywhere.
It's
in the world.
fine. But when it comes to your nation, when it comes to your country, there's no division. We should not be divided. We have to have one goal, is to bring this country up again to where it should be, where we were.
I'm going to ask one more question before we go out in a break. And this question was asked to me. A friend of mine knew that I was going to interview today, and he said, "What's the secret of you being younger every year? You don't grow older, you grow younger."
No, you go older. Nobody goes younger. Everyone goes older.
We'll come back.
We'll
with-
come back to that. Okay.
We're back again with American Pulse with Mr. Hussein Fahmy. Lots and lots of questions, Mr. Fahmy, want to ask you. I want to start with the leading movie star and the first United Nations DP Regional Goodwill Ambassador.
Aren't you going to give me a chance to answer your question, your last question?
Oh, I'm
before
sorry.
the
Yes,
break?
yes,
What
correct.
happened to you?
Yes. Tell me the secret.
There's no secret. The only thing that I believe in is that the past is gone. I have a philosophy in life, and I live with this philosophy, and I've lived with this philosophy for all my life. And I advise everyone to have a certain philosophy in life. You cannot just live like that, as if you're riding a horse without saddle.
Yeah.
And my philosophy in life has always been that the past is gone. Any past moment is gone. And the future, nobody knows anything about. The coming moments, nobody knows anything about. So what is reality to me?
Present.
Is now. Now, this moment where I'm sitting with you, this is the only reality I have in my life. I don't let any ideas pass by my mind when I'm sitting with you discussing whatever we are discussing. And this is why I live the moment. And living the moment is very precious. Living the moment, it gives you a lot of stamina for what is happening to you now. This is one aspect of it, which is actually the philosophical side of it. Now, the other side is that I lead a very healthy life in a sense that I sleep early. I've never exceeded 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, even during New Year's Eve.
Wow.
I don't exceed that. I've never been exaggerating in whatever I do, whether I'm drinking, whether I'm eating, whatever. I exercise frequently. Other than that, I have a clear conscience. I've never hurted anybody. I never hated anybody. I've always loved everyone.
And always, it has been always
I have-
everybody loved you.
I have no problem with anyone.
This is actually what I wanted to talk to you about. How can you do that? It's very hard to be lovable and never have problems with anybody. I mean,
don't
I've
know.
never, as much as I recall, I've never read a negative comment about a problem between you and somebody else.
I never had any problem with anyone. All my colleagues, I love all my colleagues. Those who succeed, I think, bravo, you've succeeded, you deserve it.
Do you think because you give him respect and you push him ahead?
Of course, I always do this. And even with youngsters, young colleagues of mine, I always give them advices. If I see somebody doing something good, I pick up the phone and I tell them, bravo, you did this, it's great. If I see somebody else, I tell them, listen, you went wrong somewhere. Check it, find out yourself.
It's
I
great
help
bec-
my friends, my colleagues, my friends. And I've always had a serenity with myself. I always believe that you have to have a sense of serenity deep in you, deep inside of you. You have no problem with yourself, then you have no problem with others. And then you have to be honest. You have to be honest with yourself.
This is a big
And I'm
point.
being honest with myself. I'm being honest with others. I'm being honest with my art. I'm being honest with my spectators and my public. I'm just honest. I'm just being honest. I'm not afraid of anyone. Why should I be afraid?
I actually witnessed that once we were gathering and you were there, and we were talking about a topic, and you didn't feel ashamed or saying that you didn't know it and you wanted to learn.
I wanted to know it,
and,
yeah,
and
sure.
and that was a big thing. I mean, a lot of people I meet, they know everything.
Yeah, but nobody knows everything.
That's what they claim.
Yeah, that's what they claim. But there was a Chinese proverb that I've read once, and I felt it. I mean, very deeply. I was very young at the time, where it said, "If you don't ask, you'll remain ignorant. So ask. I mean, if I ask, then I learn. But if I don't ask, I'll remain ignorant." It's so simple.
Yes.
We go back.
Ambassador, Goodwill Ambassador.
Yeah.
We go back to that.
Yeah.
When were you elected, and what was the role of it?
Well, I was approached by the United Nations to be a Goodwill Ambassador, regional Goodwill Ambassador to the
Middle
region.
East.
To the region. I was the first one in the region. And this appointment came from the UN itself. And I've always been fighting for it. I always believed, and I met Mr. Boutros Ghali when he was the Secretary General, and I told him, why isn't there an ambassador from Egypt or from any Arab country? Why is it always from the West? We always heard of ambassadors of goodwill from the West, and no one from the East, and especially the Middle East. So this idea I provoked until came Mr. Kofi Annan, and I was appointed as an ambassador of goodwill for 9 years. I remained 9 years. And this is under an agreement, which is a yearly agreement, but it's renewable until one party sends a letter to the other to say, sorry, I will not continue, or we don't want you to continue. And this agreement is on yearly basis, and every year the United Nations pay me $1. So they owe me $9 because I haven't been paid until now.
You should send them a letter for that.
So I stayed 9 years as an ambassador of goodwill until came the war against Lebanon, and I couldn't take it. And I kept sending and asking my friends in the Security Council to take a stand and to stop this vicious
Same
war.
thing like what's happening now.
Which is happening now, and it happened in '67, 5th of June.
It's a history.
It's a history of the Security Council. And then I woke up one day and I found that they have bombarded Kana for the second time. And there were elderly people being massacred and being dead, and children, and I couldn't take it that everyone is telling me. And this has been lasting for about 20 days. 20 days of bombardment, continuing bombardment.
A lot of people died.
A lot of people dying, and I just couldn't take it that everybody's telling me, Mr. Ambassador of Goodwill, and there was no goodwill at the time, so I decided to resign, and I resigned at the time. But meanwhile, during the 9 years, I did a lot of work in the Middle East for handicapped children, for small groups, for small communities, everywhere in the Middle East. I mean, it was in the Gulf area, whether it be in Syria, Jordan, Egypt, North Africa, Morocco. So I've been all over. Now I'm ambassador of goodwill for the Special Olympics. Special Olympics are those who have intellectual disabilities. And I'm an ambassador for them for the last 8 years now, and I'm also a regional ambassador for the Middle East.
Oh, great.
Arab states.
Do you actively engage the Egyptian organization into those Olympics?
Definitely, this is what we do, and we go around all over the world. I've been with those children everywhere, and it's fascinating to see these children achieving. It doesn't matter to them you come up the first or you come the last, but the main thing is that you have achieved. You have reached your goal, and you should see the happiness that there is on their faces when they achieve in all kinds of sports. And these children are what we call intellectual disability, which is between brackets mental disability.
Retarded.
Yeah, mental disability.
Mental disability.
Not the physical, but the mental.
Yes. A great cause in a great way. I'll move into a different topic, which could be very touchy. You worked with Suad Hosni and Khali Balak min Zuzu.
Yes.
Can you talk to us about Suad Hosni and your experience in that movie with him?
It was a fascinating experience because, again, Suad is an extremely talented actress. She is one of a kind, and I don't think we will see another Suad Hosni for many, many years to come. She was able to perform tragedies and perform comedies, and she was a singer, musicals, she could do dancing, she could do, she was really a rounded actress, and it's very rare. And she was extremely talented. Very rare phenomena to have such a talented person, and I really miss her very much, and I think motion picture industry will miss her for many, many years to come. I went through a great experience in that movie because again, I attended the birth of the song Ya Wad Ya Tqil, which was entitled after me. She was singing it to me, and at that time the producer Takfur Antonian called me and said, we're going to meet at Salah Jahin's house to listen to that song, so I want you to come. So there was Suat Hosni, there was Kamal Al-Tawil, who was the composer of the song. Big names, yes. Salah Jahin, who was Hassan Imam, who was a film director, and myself. And I was the youngest.
This is history right there.
It's history to me. I mean, these are fascinating talents that were there. Each one has a huge history behind himself, and I don't have it. I was just a newcomer. I had only 2 or 3 movies that I had made. And I was sitting there at 7 o'clock in the evening. We ended, the song was finished, completed at 7 o'clock in the morning. So 12 hours I've attended how it was done, how Salah Jahin wrote it. He started telling us the words. So I started singing the words. I started imagining it. Kamal Tawil sitting on the piano, trying to develop, writing the notes. It was unbelievable. Nice. To me, it was a fantastic experience, really. Fascinating, yeah.
Do you mentioned that you miss her, but a lot of her audience miss her a lot.
Definitely.
And they're very sad of the way that, she departed this life, obviously.
Definitely.
Would you, Mr. Fahmy, take it upon yourself or a group of actors to start a campaign or an ideology changing concept of people like to listen to you about the new Egypt?
Definitely. And this is what I've been doing lately. I've been doing it here in the States, and in my lectures at the universities, whether in Boston or in New York, in Washington, when I meet Egyptian Americans, or I meet congressmen, or I meet students and university professors. This is what I've been doing. I've been campaigning in a place where I can do that, where I can be of help, which is the United States. When the occasion comes to me in Egypt, I do it also, and I do it willingly. And I believe that we should all collaborate in this path, because this is the future of Egypt, and we all have to consider the new generations, the upcoming generations. We want them to believe in their country, we want them to work for the country, we want this country to be a great nation. So this is what I've been doing.
Great. One last advice to the viewers of what should they do. I feel like I call a lot of my friends in Egypt. They're very interested to help, but they don't know how. Like when Suez Canal project came, a lot of people pulled out their money from their bank accounts and they put it in. What are the steps that you think they should take locally? Because I believe that improvement starts locally and then goes up the pyramid.
I believe in the Egyptian person. I believe in the Egyptian people very much. I've always believed in it. Even at the worst moments in our life, I've always believed that we can come up and we can do something. We needed a leader, what we have now. We needed
which is your competitor, actually. A lot of people love him, so he's your competitor and love.
He's extremely charismatic, which is a great thing to have as a leader. We need a leader who has a belief that can convince us to follow, and then he puts a plan for us. He's a strategist, which is great for this country at this moment of history. We need a person like him. The third thing is that we need a major project to believe in. We need a national project, like the High Dam at one moment, like the building of the first Suez Canal. Now we have the second Suez Canal, which is a great thing. Is that the first Suez Canal was built by Egyptians, and this was a major belief. People believed in it, and they did it. We built the pyramids. We built all these great temples that we have. Our history is amazing. When you want to do it, you do it. We crossed the canal in 73, in the 6th of October of 73. We defeated the Israelis for the first time in their history. We have defeated them. We have brought down the Bar-Leaf line, which was compared to the Maginot Line.
Yes. They thought it would be a joke
in the
if
Second
anything
World
happened
War.
to it.
Exactly, in the Second World War. But we broke it down. We brought it down, and we opened the canal for international trafficking. We can do it. We can do it. So now we have another project, and a very important project, which is the second Suez Canal, digging of the second Suez Canal. Then we can go from there to other projects, and the Egyptians are ready. They wanted, I mean, the project needed 60 billion Egyptian pounds. All bankers said, well, in about a month and a half, we can cover this figure. It was covered in 8 days. It's amazing.
Unbelievable.
I mean, the people
Nobody
is there.
could believe it. Nobody
Exactly.
could believe it.
The nation is ready.
Yeah, I think that was a big signal to the whole world that President Sisi has the whole Egyptian population behind him.
Definitely.
They're supporting him. They love
Definitely.
him. They want to push him forward because most of what I think is that they believed him.
That's right.
And he has proven to us that he really cares for the country and he really cares for his people. So
He is an Egyptian.
yes,
He's a pure
he's a
Egyptian.
true Egyptian.
A true Egyptian. And when he came to the United Nations, there was no plan to meet Obama. And the Obama office called, this is an inside information. The Obama office called the Egyptian presidential group, is there any possibility for the president? Does he want to have a meeting with Obama? And the Egyptian group said, no, we have no plans to meet Obama. A few hours later, the Oval
You
Office,
want us to ask.
the Oval Office
Yes.
called and said, we want to meet
Yes.
President Sisi.
Yes. He
This is
returned the
This is-
integrity
exactly.
of Egypt. Now
Exactly.
we're very strong and
Exactly.
we had to show them the message.
is.
We don't mean any evil. We don't want any harm to anybody. We want to live and let
We
live.
want our country to be a better country, and no interference in internal affairs. If we want the president, Sisi, to be a president, we elected him to be a president. What we did was not a coup d'etat, it was a revolution on the 30th of June. For Mr. Erdogan to stand in front of the General Assembly and talk about Egypt, half of his speech is about Egypt,
Shame.
and that this is a coup d'etat is a shame.
I think
It's a shame. It's not the caliber of a president.
he lost all his tools, I think, and he's just trying to use whatever is left.
Unfortunately.
Mr. Hussein Fahmy, yani, I can talk to you for hours
Thank
and
you,
hours
thank
and
you.
days. A lot of experience, a lot of good things, a lot of
Thank you.
positiveness. Thank you for coming to
Thank
American
you.
Pulse.
Thank you
and,
for inviting
I'm
me.
sure we're going to have
Yeah.
another meeting sometime in Egypt or here.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
I wish you all the best.
Thank you very much.